My name is Kirke Hebb, but you can call me Ebb. I was born and lived in Lincoln from 1836 to 1902, where I died on the 1st of June in the city I helped develop. I was a member of the clerkship between 1866 and 1899. During my time I helped many people achieve better housing. I'm a sanitarian and I work to improve the waterworks, gasworks, sewage system and the electricity undertaking. I did lots for this great city. I owned a private practice. I was director of several private companies and even had a stint as the chairman of the Lincoln and Lindsay Bank. Well, the amount of people living in the city greatly increased. As population grew, more houses had to be built. However, these houses were small and expensive and built on swampy or damp ground, which made it bad for its residents, especially as there was an average of nearly 5 persons per house. This caused some of these houses to become nothing more than fever hospitals. This was one of the reasons I worked to help these houses improve. Exactly, but I can see that is not an issue now. My work has been vastly improved upon, and it's not the only improvement I've noticed. Well, I can see. In my day we had no way to transport goods by road quickly. For us, many goods had to be transported by river. We transported goods to London down the river to be sold at market. However, as the state of the canal declined, it became less optimal to transport goods this way. A journey from Old to Lincoln via the river system took nearly as long as a voyage to America. 3 whole weeks. The Ellisons should have taken more care. Yes, the Ellison family was given a lease for 999 years for the canal. My father, George W. Ebb, told me all about a canal, and Richard Ellison IV set about on improvements to the canal when I was 1 in 1837. However, as time passed, the railway became the great transport debate in Lincoln. Well, quite the opposite. The debate was to which line we should back. There were people campaigning for all the proposed lines. A Wakefield line, a Swinton line, a Manchester-Sheffield line. In fact, in total, there were 7 different lines looking to come through Lincoln. 4 north and south, 3 east and west. Well, many people debated for the lines across the board. In the end, a railway committee made up of half councilmen and half members of the public was formed. They re-examined all the arguments and who supported what and for what reason. Ellison wanted the Wakefield line to protect the canal. A man named Charles Seeley wanted the Swinton line for better connections to coal. And the back and forth continued, as members had certain allegiances to different businesses. But indeed, the mayor, Richard S. Harvey, a role held by my father not 2 years earlier, and might have continued had he not died in office, God rest his soul, removed those with commercial interest from what he called the Procrastination Committee. On September 19, 1844, the council improved the United Lines London to York and Wakefield, Lincoln, Boston, as can be seen on this map of the railways. Oh, quite right. There are many new sites around today that were not around before, such as the university that sits over Brayford Pool. Back in my day, that area was a large port for goods and coming up and down the canal. And now it's a building of education. Well, when I was in school it was very different to how it is now, but I saw a radical change in schooling due to the 1870 Education Act, which required a school place should be in reach of every English child. Well, Lincoln was down about 1,000 school places for the children in the city, so more schools were required. Few pushed for a school board, but one was never made here in Lincoln, and this made Lincoln one of the 7 county boroughs not to have a school board. Instead, the duty of creating additional places was left to the church. Schools were made in 5 different parishes across Lincoln, and a free school was used to augment the numbers to fill the place requirement. This started well, but then in 1876 the Elementary Education Act pushed for compulsory attendance, and in places where there was no school board to enforce this, like Lincoln, it was left to the local authorities to do this. Notices of non-attendance were sent out by the school board man of the council. If these were not acted upon, fines would be issued, and in some cases, attendance orders would be issued. But forcing attendance led for schools to struggle. As I mentioned earlier, Lincoln's population was growing rapidly. The schools struggled to hold all the students, and expansion could not always be paid for. But luckily, new schoolrooms were opened, and even though schooling became more expensive than laid out in the 1870 Act, Lincoln had all children in school by 1883. Well, yes, but although there have been many changes, there are still a few things that have remained the same. The High Street, the Strait, and the Waterside still have remnants of the time I was alive. There's still evidence of Victorian architecture in the streets, and it can be seen how the city was built around what we left for you today. Well, obviously there's a prison in the castle, still kept as it was when it was holding the criminals of my time. There's also the Crown Court in the castle ground that was built in the 1820s and still functions as a court today. There are other buildings around Lincoln, like Jew's House, that were built in my time, but my favourite example is the Arboretum on Monks Road. The Arboretum is a lovely garden, designed by Edward Milner, featuring a maze, a bandstand, a cafe, and a wonderful statue of a lion. It's a beautiful location right in the heart of Lincoln. It's a beauty rivaling that of the cathedral itself, and I was lucky enough to live in that wonderful park. Why yes, I lived in Coldbath House after it was built in 1867. It was designed by a good friend of mine, Michael Drury. He gave evidence when I was working to improve the drainage system, which was causing illness among residents in 1868. And 10 years later, he was responsible for the new drainage system. I was more than happy to help him achieve. He designed some Lincoln buildings that still stand today, like the Min Street Baptist Church. Well, it's sad to hear that my house was attacked, but I'm glad it's become further integrated into the area. I use it to host a council in its large rooms on the pleasant landscape during my service to the city. It was a wonderful house and I miss it dearly. In fact, I think I shall return to that place and see it again with my own eyes. I look forward to seeing what future changes happen to this city. Until next time, farewell.